As you know, Halloween is afoot, so why don't we set the mood a little?
Monster RX93.1.
Hey there, monsters! I'm MJ of the Wild and Wicked Snack, and I am here to give you some Halloween movie recommendations. Perfect for marathons and creeping yourself out, giving yourself the heebie-jeebies, just in time for the spooky season. Our first category is recent must-sees. So these are films that came out over the past year or maybe even 2019. So just in case you missed it in cinemas, time to revisit it. First on the list is Host from 2020, directed by Rob Savage. This is actually very relevant to what we're going through now because this movie is set at present times during the pandemic. It's actually set in a Zoom call. So imagine the whole movie in a Zoom call. Yeah, with the interface and everything. You're gonna feel like you are in this Zoom call. It is about a group of friends who decide to hold an online seance. And as horror movie lovers, we all know that if you mess with the spirits, things can go horribly wrong. You're gonna kind of hesitate a little bit to go on one of those Zoom calls because you never know what might pop up behind your screen or like, I'm not gonna say what happens, but just go check it out. Next is a zombie film. It's called #Alive or Alive, also released in 2020, and it's directed by Il Cho. But before I get to that, can I just say props to South Korea for making such amazing zombie movies and TV series for these past few years. We got Train to Busan, we had Kingdom, and now we've got this, Alive. Basically, it's about this gamer guy. He lives alone in a condo, and all hell breaks loose! Zombie outbreak! Ah! And if you think you're actually safe in a high-rise building by yourself, you're wrong! It is so stressful. A lot of dying, a lot of blood, a lot of flesh-eating action. So watch it, it's fun. And now from 2019, might I suggest Midsommar, directed by Ari Aster. This is the guy who brought you Hereditary, which is also amazing. You might have heard TMR talking about it, and they actually have a video of them watching the movie real time. It's pretty fun. Hereditary has actually scarred Hazel Hottie for life. She will never see Toni Collette the same way again. You're used to seeing horror films all dark and shadowy and creepy with only the moonlight as your main source or maybe a fire happening in the background. I don't know. But Midsommar is actually very bright. It's very colorful. Around maybe 70% of the film is set in broad daylight, but it still has that creepy underlying factor. It is visually stunning. Florence Pugh is amazing here, by the way. It's about this group of friends who fly abroad to Sweden and attend this festival of some sort in the countryside. And this group or clan or tribe or cult they come across is, well, let's just say they have very, very strange rituals. Note, do not, I repeat, do not watch this with your parents, okay? You're welcome.
Ang programang ito ay rated SPG. Striktong patnubay at gabay ng magulang ang kailangan. Maaaring may masiselang tema, lengguwahe, karahasan, sexual, horror o droga na hindi angkop sa mga bata.
To be fair, I think most of these films are actually not for kids. It's actually very polarizing because people either love it or hate it. So either you're, oh my god, that was so weird, I love it, or did I just watch? And I'd love to know which one you are. Alright, next category is for the true crime junkie. Like me! For those of you who believe that we should be more scared of people than of the paranormal, then this is for you. Humans are terrible. First, there's Seven from 1995, directed by David Fincher. It's about this serial killer who has this theme going on with his victims. He has this motif of the 7 deadly sins. This stars Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Gwyneth Paltrow. Word of warning, Kevin Spacey's also in it, so if you don't really want to watch anything with a sex offender in it, then I'd totally understand. But Kevin Spacey aside, it's pretty great. This is where Brad Pitt's iconic "What's in the box?" scene is from. It's so sick, it's so intense, and it's so dark. So go watch it. Next up is another David Fincher film. Obviously, I am a fan. He just handles crime thrillers so well. It's his forte, most definitely. He's also responsible for Gone Girl, my favorite rom-com. Just kidding. So Zodiac from 2007 is actually based on the true story of the Zodiac killer. His identity is still unknown. This was around the late 60s to the early 70s, and he has been said to be responsible for around 37 deaths. Well, of course, this movie took some creative liberties here and there, but what makes it all the more creepy is knowing that this is based on actual events, like actual murders that happened. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr. Great cast, great movie. And finally, my fave, Silence of the Lambs from 1991, directed by Jonathan Demme. It stars Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling, who is out to solve a series of murders with the help of a serial killer. This is the movie that immortalized Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Yes, the Hannibal Lecter, one of the creepiest fictional serial killers ever. Hello, Clarice. He is a cannibalistic murderer who also happens to be a brilliant and twisted psychiatrist. So he might know a thing or two about other twisted minds out there. There's actually a whole Hannibal Lecter series of films. I think it's also a TV series called Hannibal. But as for the films, there are 4. The best is Silence of the Lambs, as I recommended. You can also watch Red Dragon, the prequel. It was pretty good. It stars Edward Norton and Ralph Fiennes, and there's also the sequel to Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, which is and there's also the prequel, Hannibal's Childhood, which is Hannibal Rising, which is also no. And for our last category, you might need something to wash off all the blood and the gore and the fear in your system. So I'm gonna do that with some laughs too. Now here are some horror comedies. And of course, I gotta squeeze in a vampire film in there. So first, let's talk about What We Do in the Shadows from 2014. It's directed by Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. And, well, I'm also a huge Taika Waititi fan. Taika Waititi won an Academy Award for Best Screenplay for Jojo Rabbit. And he also directed Thor Ragnarok. So this guy knows his humor. What We Do in the Shadows is about a group of vampires who are trying to adjust to modern times because they're old-timey. I want to suck your blood. It's kind of a mockumentary, actually. So to the characters, there's a whole documentary team shooting them. Hilarious! And finally, for those of you who just can't help but laugh at all the stupid characters and their stupid decisions in horror movies, then you might like Cabin in the Woods from 2011. It's directed by Drew Goddard and co-written by Joss Whedon, who directed the first Avengers film, who I also heard has a little issue. He is mildly problematic, so it's up to you if you want to watch it. But this movie is fun. It stars Chris Hemsworth, such a beautiful man. That's reason enough to watch it. Do I have to say more? So it's about this group of friends who have a wild night and just decide to camp out in an abandoned cabin in the woods. Why? Why do horror characters do this? Oh, a scary cabin? Let's go check it out. Hey, I hear a creepy sound. Let's split up and find out where it's coming from. Why? Anyway, back to Cabin in the Woods. It's a very self-aware film, so it kind of makes fun of all of the horror movie stereotypes and formulas. This is kind of like a parody of that, and you're in for a treat. So there you go, monsters. Those are my Halloween movie recommendations. That's all I have time for. There are so many movies I wish I could discuss with you. But if you like talking about movies, maybe you're gonna like my podcast with my friends. It's called Sub-Auteurs, and it's available in your favorite podcast platforms. And of course, if you have any more scary movie suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Or let me know if you've seen some of the films that I suggested. I'd love to know what you think. So at RX931 for all of them. Follow me as well at MJ Fozzie. Happy Halloween!